name's Chris and I'm making this nature video for the Stuart Low Trust. Today I'm at Leigh-on-Sea in Essex visiting the Essex Wildlife Trust Nature Reserve at Two Tree Island. I'm particularly hoping to see Avocets on their Saltwater Lagoon. Two Tree Island is situated as part of the sort of delta of the Thames, so it's surrounded by small tributaries on all sides. It's low, hasn't got much elevation, no hills, and it's mainly mixed grassland and scrub. So you can see there's small bushes of hawthorn, wild roses, blackthorn, a few small ash trees. It's got more than just the two trees of its name. Interesting wildflowers, but on all sides it's surrounded by small rivers which are tidal. It's part of the estuary, so it's salt marsh. It also has saltwater lagoons that are really important breeding grounds for wading birds. But one thing it's always got when you're here are these big expansive skies. At the moment the blackthorn is flowering. Now blackthorn gives rise to the fruit slow. It's a native shrub, it's very early to flower, and it provides really good cover for nesting birds and really good forage for bees. You can see where in this one the main bush is here, but then there's all these satellites growing here, and these will be root suckers. So from one plant it can spread and make this great big patch. But this time of year it makes great white patches of blossom that are visible from miles away. Here you can see the detail of the blackthorn or slow blossom. So they're one of the first to flower, and each bush will have uncountable thousands of flowers over it. So on warm days, which isn't today, it's really cold, this will be crawling with bees. And of course then through the year, once they're pollinated, they'll produce sloes, which are like very small, very sour and bitter, mouth puckering small plums, which generally aren't eaten but are turned into sloe gin. One of the plants that's in flower across Two Tree Island is this, which is Alexander's. Now, it grows coastally on sand dunes and on salt marsh and on roadside banks. But it's interesting because even though it's very widespread, they think it was introduced originally by the Romans as a pot herb. All parts of it are edible, and whenever you read about it, it'll always say it tastes like celery, and it doesn't. Actually, when cooked, it's got like a deep, earthy, sort of mushroomy taste. It flowers very early, has these shiny leaves, and has these domed umbels which are made up of lots of tiny greeny cream flowers that on a sunny day will be covered in hoverflies, small bees and small flies. A very good early source of nectar and pollen. Part of the scrub community There's Gorse, which a lot of people will know as being really spiny, and you can see the vicious thorns on it, which one would think would prevent grazing, but rabbits, deer, cattle and sheep will all eat it. But when it comes into flower, it will be literally covered with these yellow pea flowers. But I think the really interesting thing about Gorse is the flowers are strongly scented of a really tropical coconut scent. And you'd think, being from some windswept bleak places, why on earth it would have evolved to have such an exotic scent. Most of the vegetation on Two Tree Island is coarse grass, brambles, blackthorn, a few small willows, some apple trees, but there are the odd anomaly, one being this big flowering currant, which originally from North America is now a common garden plant, but it is very popular with bees, and even on a cold day like today it's being worked by bumblebees because it is such a good source of nectar and pollen. How can they possibly resist? So it may have been planted by someone who thinks that the natural landscape needs improving, but it may have been dropped by a bird with the seed in its poo after feeding on the fruit. It has small currants and not particularly tasty, but I really like the fragrance of it. A lot of people describe it as being like cat's pee, which I wouldn't agree. It's got a herby spiciness to it, but doesn't that look marvellous? Very early in the year, so there aren't many flowers, but really reliable winter annual is red dead nettle, which has these hooded flowers full of nectar. And there's a bumblebee enjoying the red dead nettle. And then also ubiquitous, but one of the best nectar and pollen sources at the start of the year, dandelions. And here on the banks, there is salt spray and it's inundated with salt, is this plant. Now this is sea beet, which is the precursor to beetroot. It's one of the ancestors. And so while this doesn't have a swollen enlarged root, it does have these fleshy green leaves that are a really good vegetable, and is collected by a lot of foragers for eating. Now with the sea beet you do get the odd plant that maybe it's got some genes from a domestic one, or maybe it just shows their variability, but you can see whereas this one has the deep red and purple pigment that would have been a precursor for culinary beetroot that people developed. And here we're looking out at the Saltwater Lagoon, that was specially constructed by the Wildlife Trust to give a series of islands that are surrounded by water, so ideally be predator free, which is particularly to encourage wading birds, and in particular the avocet, which is quite an endangered wading bird in the UK, to give them safe breeding sites. Black-headed gulls. There's another black-headed gull, and avocets feeding on worms and shrimps. There's another one to the right. I'm sorry it's so shaky. I'm filming through my binoculars. Bloody hell's teeth. But proof that they're here. Last time I was here, the last hide had been burnt to the ground. But now they've built this new one that also includes drilled logs, sections of bamboo and sheep's wool, which gives habitat for solitary bees or nest in the holes of the logs and the bamboo, and small birds will use the fleece for their nests. But then also incorporated into the panelling is a nest box with a metal guard so that woodpeckers and squirrels can't get in to get the chicks. And it's going to be hard for anyone to burn down. It's great. There you can see an avocet feeding. You can see its upturned bill and how, as it walks along, it swings it through the water. Distinctive, unmistakable bird. avocets, as you can see, they nest on these small islands and they just make a small scrape on the gravel of the sand. You can see this one just scraping out with its feet, just making sure it fits to its body. And that's where they lay their eggs, and this is why they're so vulnerable when they're nesting, because they don't hide away, they're out in the open. And so if you think ground predators like foxes, if they can get to the islands, can just eat all the chicks and the eggs really quickly. And so with the Essex Wildlife Trust making this series of islands, they've made a habitat for avocets to breed. Hello doggy, you're friendly. Oh hello, are you silly? You pretty dog. Hello. Oh, you got a stick. Oh, you look very proud of that. You do. And you handsome. He's a flirt, isn't he? Got a stick.
He loves men. You've got a cheese sandwich on you, you're lucky.
Oh, you're pretty as well. Hello, little one.